Well, we know for those of us that have been following tennis long enough that the affairs of the world can sometimes coincide with international tennis. There's not too many countries in the world where there's not an international tennis tournament. Over the last 72 hours, our news services back here in Australia have certainly been reporting the latest in the conflict between Israel and Gaza and the real hotbed of the Middle East, the long-standing dispute between Israel and Palestine. The airstrikes that we've seen on our news services deemed to be the worst and the most severe since 2014. Well, right now there's a women's ITF 15K event in Jerusalem, and that is where we find Australian Alexandra Osborne, and I caught up with her to tell us about what it's like to be there at the moment a little earlier. Well, Ali, thank you very much for joining us. You have been on our radar for a little while to have a chat to, and we will do that on Aussies Only, our dedicated podcast, our radio show, of course. But we wanted to touch base with you. You're in Jerusalem at the moment, and obviously we're getting the reports thick and fast on our news, the latest in the Israel-Palestine conflict, which has been going for as long as we can remember. But you're very close to it being there in Jerusalem. Can you tell us what's sort of been unfolding in the last 24 to 48 hours? And you've had back-to-back tournaments in Israel.
Yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah. So the last 48 hours have been unprecedented, not something I was expecting at all coming here. Yeah, I was in Tel Aviv last week, this week in Jerusalem. Last week, nothing was going on. And obviously, with the end of Ramadan coming up, I believe today or tomorrow, the conflict has escalated, obviously. So, yeah, I guess 2 days ago, I was just in a lounge room here and heard something go off. I didn't know if it was a bomb or a missile or what it was, and ran outside. And I happened to be staying opposite the US Embassy and can look down into the compound and just saw everyone scrambling, running to go inside. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, this is crazy. This was actually something that I heard and it wasn't just some other weird noise. So quite surreal experience. And that one was very close to kind of us in the old city. I'm only at 4 to 5 kilometers maybe from the old city here. So that one was quite close to the old city in Jerusalem. And overnight, obviously, things really escalated in Tel Aviv and from the airport. I'm about 40 kilometers from the airport. So that's where I think a lot of the footage probably back home is of the missiles and the Iron Dome and stuff like that, and everything happening over in the airspace between the airport and Tel Aviv. So pretty unreal experience, not something I was expecting. And I mean, falling asleep last night to the sound of missiles was not a part of the plan.
Well, I mean, I'm a long way from it, but I mean, I imagine that's got to be a pretty scary thing. I mean, were you,
Yeah.
whilst you're there asleep, I mean, is there a concern that this is, how close this is? What do I do? I mean, what's sort of the guidance around you, if you like?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm staying with a wonderful woman through a family friend, and it's kind of crazy, but she had to show me the bomb shelter, which just, it's just so foreign as an Australian to be shown a bomb shelter. But we were shown that just in case sirens go off during the middle of the night. That's just something we would have to go and do. And right now, I think there are apparently 3 million people in Tel Aviv in bomb shelters. So it's really real. And in Jerusalem today, everything's normal right now. I think kids are in school and it's all kind of day-to-day business right now. In Tel Aviv, it's very different, which is crazy. It's only 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, I don't know, not too stressed out, to be honest. I'm really fortunate to be staying across from the US Embassy. And a part of me is thinking, look, if something happens to the US Embassy, that's like World War III. So kind of a little bit calmer, to be honest, with regards to the fact that I am next to the US Embassy. So I'm not too stressed out, but I can imagine being in other parts, it really could be.
Yeah. So what have you heard from the tournament itself? As far as you're concerned, it's sort of business as usual. During the day, it seems to be okay. Can you give us a feel for that?
Yeah, so before our matches yesterday, as a part of the pre-match talk from the referee at the net, they did have to mention that where we would go if the sirens went off, if missiles or things were happening, where the bomb shelter kind of space where it was during the match, if that was to happen. But yeah, the tournament so far haven't released anything overnight to us. I'm not sure what happens this morning at the tournament, if there's an announcement. I haven't heard anything yet. But we had an event last night, a players party as you wish, and the Jerusalem mayor was there, and it sounded like the tournament was still going ahead. So I think so far it's going ahead. Today's normally an off day for doubles if you play yesterday, but everyone's playing doubles today. So I take it they're trying to probably finish the tournament as soon as they can, because normally you would have this day off and play the quarters tomorrow for doubles. So yeah, that's my take a little bit. Maybe they're trying to finish it a bit soon, but earlier, obviously. But yeah.
I mean, obviously, for the people that live in Israel, this is sort of something they've become so used to. I mean, you can never prepare, and we can see just, I mean, the vision coming back to Australia, people scrambling in a panic. You know, I mean, it's some horrible scenes in a way, but they're quite conditioned to it. Is that what you sort of feel? Just being on the ground there?
Well, funnily enough, I don't think it is that way. The woman I'm staying with, Hannah, she really hasn't experienced much like this before, and she's lived here for 20 years in this location. So it's not as common as what maybe it's made out to be honest. She's only happened once or twice before where it's been that many strikes overnight. And the amount that was shot into the sky last night, the Iron Domes, there wasn't enough, obviously, to capture every single one in the air. So I guess some are landing, and yeah, this isn't as common as maybe what it's made out to be by the sounds of it. It's actually quite a serious, rare occurrence.
What about the ITF in general? When Sam Groth, who's hosted this show with me quite a bit, told some great stories of life on the road, and not so great stories, but he was in Algeria once where there was a civil war pretty much going on, and the players were holed up in this hotel, couldn't come out for 3 or 4 days. There were protests and riots going on, and the ITF somehow got them out safely. I mean, what sort of role do they play? Just generally on the tour, looking after your welfare. I mean, you're going to lots of fascinating players, fascinating places, tennis players, where there's a lot of things going on in these particular countries.
Yeah, this is definitely my first time experiencing something like this. I've primarily been based and played, in South America, and Canada and Australia. So I've really never had to experience something like this. So with regards to how the ITF are going to handle it, I'm not too sure. That's going to be their call, I guess, today or in the next day or so. It's weird. During the day, it's fine. And at night is when the worry is. But I guess that's also with regards to player welfare. It's just making sure they know where everyone is. I'm not too sure what their process is going to be for handling this. I'm not sure if they've had to deal with, missiles, at this extent. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure the ITF, I would hope, are going to do as much as they can to help us. And, with the airport being closed, I'm not sure what's going to go ahead, even if they do cancel the tournament. We can't really leave, I don't believe, at the moment. So, I mean, a lot of the players here are going to Georgia as well next week. So, if we're stuck here, I don't know how they're going to play that tournament, because a lot of us here, by the sounds of it, are going to Georgia as well. So, tricky situation, definitely.
You're pretty concerned about that, the fact the airport's closed and you don't know exactly when it's going to be reopened. Is that how concerning is that for you?
Yeah, it's a concern just to be able to get to the next tournament, I suppose. From what I've heard, it should open up in the next few days, but you just don't know, I guess, what's going to unfold. It seems to be changing every minute here, and there's more worry as it comes to the end of Ramadan and the next day. So I'm guessing tonight will be a big night, I'm sure. Yeah.